Right, hello Dom, how are you?
I'm all right, thanks.
Jolly good. Please introduce yourself. Dom Davis from where?
I'm Don Davis, and I am CTO and co-founder of Tech Marionette.
Okay, and what is Tech Marionette?
Tech Marionette is redefining the IT service management toolset, which a lot of people don't get. But basically, if you've got a medium to large enterprise, we're going to be helping out in the back office of IT.
Right, okay then. And can you tell me how long it's been running for now?
We've only been going about 6 months. It's a very new startup.
Okay, and what was you doing before then, Dom?
So before then, I was CTO of another startup called Rainbird, which is another Norwich company, and they were doing AI.
Okay then. Okay, so you're a very experienced chap. So we're going to be talking about company culture today. So can you give us a little insight to the culture at Tech Marionette?
So the company culture was something that the company was actually founded on. The three co-founders got together and we agreed from the word go what the company was going to be. And we've built the company around that rather than we're going to go make ourselves rich or all the other things that people think you start a company for.
Right. Okay. And why did you decide to build a company around company culture with company culture in mind first?
All three of us have investment banking backgrounds. All three of us could go back into investment banking and earn an awful lot of money. And we were basically bored of having our souls slowly crushed and wanted to try something fun, try and create an environment where we wanted to go to work.
I see. Okay, then. So, what is that company culture then that people are excited to go to work for them? What have you got at Tech Marionette that's so exciting about its company culture?
We're a software company. We write software, and our core premise is that we build and sell great software. So often you'll find companies are driven by their sales teams, and things get promised to customers that haven't necessarily been agreed with the software developers. So you end up with this state of conflict. And you're not happy with what you're producing because you're always trying to sort of catch up with the sales team. So what we're doing is we are creating an environment where we can make the software that we can be proud of, and the hope is that that will stop this dichotomy with the sales team because they won't have to make stuff up to sell it. It's good software. People will want to buy it. One of the other core tenets we have is that we are all on the same team. So if there's something that we don't agree with or something that we think is wrong, then we need to talk. And we have deliberate channels to allow this kind of communication to happen. We call them elephants, address the elephant in the room.
Okay.
Every single meeting we have, as well as any other business, there's a section for elephants, and it can be anything. It doesn't need to be related to the meeting. We have a Skype channel, because we're a distributed company, entitled Elephants, where we can bring things up. And we're fostering a culture whereby if you don't agree with something, for whatever reason, bring it up and let's discuss it now while it's a small thing rather than later when it could be quite a large thing.
Okay, so why elephants then? Why not meerkats?
It's around addressing the elephant in the room. So you quite often get someone who's sort of sat there, not necessarily buying into the conversation, not necessarily agreeing because they've got a reservation that they don't want to bring up. Perhaps they feel they're going to sound stupid. Perhaps they feel they don't understand properly. So what we're doing is we're encouraging that kind of feedback to come in. If they haven't understood, then we can explain it better and actually note that perhaps we're not explaining ourselves as best we could. And quite often they're bringing valuable insight into something that we may have overlooked.
So you're really sort of like stopping a fear within your culture that anyone can ask a question. No question is a silly question.
That's correct. So there is no idea. There's no concept of a stupid question. It's just one of the things where we accept that perhaps I understand what I'm talking about because I wrote the document, but you may not because you may have made some other assumptions or may not have the full knowledge that I do.
Okay. So with your experience, your past experience, you've obviously worked with companies that have probably brilliant company culture and not so good company culture. Have you sort of borrowed some ideas from other companies, or is this purely your own company culture?
So some of it has been shamelessly stolen from some of the textiles companies I worked with back with Rainbird. Um, some of those actually had their company culture written out and attached to a wall, and it was there for everyone to see, not just internally in the company. So some of the ideas that were bandied around there, some of the ideas that were brought up in Rainbird, for example, and some of the ideas I found in other companies have been brought in, and then we've got rid of the things that we thought were, or specifically stated the things that we thought were bad, and tried to make the culture to avoid bad things.
Right. Okay. Do you think that there are some companies out there that don't understand what company culture actually is?
Yes, and it generally correlates with company size. So one of my favourite things is watching large companies who have an executive retreat. They come up with how the company is going to operate. This is our company culture, and then they decree to the 50, 60,000 employees they've got, this is the company culture. And that's not company culture. That's someone saying something and the rest of the employees going,
A bit like a dictatorship.
yes. And culture is the sum of everyone who works at a company. And once you've got to that size, you can't really change your culture by mandate and diktat. You've got to do it by example over time.
So are you saying, Dom, that the employees own the company culture?
Very much so. If you've got a company where you turn around and say that we value and respect diversity, and yet every lunchtime the employees go out and discuss which women in the office they would sleep with, your company culture and your employees are, or your stated company culture and your company culture are entirely different. Yeah. So you need to actually make sure that your employees are buying into what your company culture is, and if they are not buying into that company culture, what do you do about it?
So what if a company had a bad, or they realise they have a bad company culture? Is there anything that they can do about it?
Yeah, so like I say, you lead by example. Depending on, I should say, the transgression, or depending on how different the employee's outlook on life is to the culture, you may need to get rid of some people. If you've got some really bad eggs in there, you may need to sort of encourage and foster the type of culture that you want. But it's like I say, it can't be done through diktat and mandate. It has to be done by example and over a period of time.
Yeah, so it's a commitment.
Yes.
Okay, so looking at then attracting people into the organisation and also taking Tech Marionette, the better the company culture, the better standard of talent that's going to be attracted to the organisation. Is that correct?
Yes. People want to go work at a fun place to work. You spend a lot of time working. And especially with tech startups, you spend an awful lot of time working. So salary tends not to be that great. You need other differentiators to make it attractive to people.
So how then would you publicise that, hey, we've got a great company culture? What do you do to attract those people into your organisation?
So we get rid of a lot of the norms of hiring. So you will generally see adverts for, we want a software developer with 5 years experience in this particular technology, blah, 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 must have a degree. We don't do that. We turn around and say, right, we want someone who believes that they can bring solutions to these problems. It doesn't matter what your skill set is, because if you can program in one language, you can program in any language. We'll support you with that. And we're looking for sort of enthusiastic individuals. So we're appealing to the sort of the personality types that we want and the cultural fit that we want. And you generally find that people view that as a much more open and progressive company culture to work in.
So are you then, just reading in between the lines, are you saying to businesses and companies out there, perhaps they should be hiring for culture first?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And why is that?
So if you've got the perfect technical fit, whatever the role, but they are culturally wrong, then you could actually end up with a negative impact on your company culture. I've seen this happen. One company where I worked at, they brought in a new sales manager, and he rearranged the desks and put himself at the head. So he was overlooking his team. He started building his little fiefdom, and this was it was a medium-sized company, but we were still a startup mentality. So that got everyone's backs up. People didn't like this idea of some overlord over in the corner, and he was gone 2 days later.
They realised the mistake.
There was that, and there were other unsubstantiated rumours going around, but he was just completely the wrong fit for the company, and the higher ups realised, so they got rid of him, and I think they actually promoted internally in the end.
So do you think that should be the case then? If the employer or the internal recruiter have realised straight away that they've hired wrong, that they have to nip it in the bud immediately?
Yes. Tech stars have this mantra of hire slow, fire fast. So take your time in finding the people, make sure they're the right people, and if you've got it wrong, just get rid of them.
Right, okay then. So with regards to the people that you hire right, how then do you create ambassadors for your organisation? Do you encourage them to go out there and talk about what a great place it is to work for to attract more people?
Trust, basically.
Right.
You turn around and you trust them to do the right thing. You give trust to them. So you turn around and say that these are the things that need doing in the company, and they will take on those things, have ownership. And because they've got ownership, they feel good about it, and then they start talking about it external to the workplace. You'll find that some people are not necessarily very gregarious and don't like talking about work outside of work, which is fine. You don't want to sort of force people to be, again, it's that sort of diktat of we're all going to say how great it is to work.
Yeah.
If they don't want to talk about work outside work, you're never going to force them. Doesn't matter. But you give them this trust, you give them this ownership, and they take the ownership, and then you find that seeps out.
Yeah.
And that also gives a much more genuine coverage of what it's like to work at the company, because it's coming from the people themselves, not this is how we're going to portray ourselves.
So are you, again, reading between the lines, you're not a company which has like loads and loads of policies that everybody has to adhere by?
Not at all. So we have a few core policies which are non-mandatory in the main, legal requirements aside. If you have a reason for bypassing a policy, if it's a good reason, then let's bypass it, because red tape and policy should not get in the way of actually doing something beneficial.
Right, okay then. That's good. And then also, just advice for other employers looking at wanting to attract great talent into their organisations, and they're looking at perhaps changing the company culture. Is there any advice that you can give them to become that preferred employer that people go, that's the place I want to work for or at?
So the way that people are approached needs to change. Again, going up to larger organizations, they tend to go out to recruitment consultants, and then you start getting these really rubbish keyword matched emails based on CVs from years ago, and it instantly switches me off. I much prefer where you've got a company that's going out and is handling its own recruitment, is going out on social media channels, is doing interesting things to encourage applications. So maybe setting technical challenges for more technical things, encouraging different ways to apply for a job, perhaps. And that way you start getting, if you're lucky, viral attention towards your jobs.
So with regards then to that employer that's thinking, okay, then we need to change this, we need to start attracting people into the organisation. By what you're saying, Dom, it sounds very much like you're going out there and you're building up relationships with people. So perhaps... Yes. Is it the case that the employer needs to be looking at perhaps not panic hiring, but doing a longer strategy in building relationships with the right people?
Absolutely. And also going out there into the community and doing events. So I do events with universities and schools, because I'm actually looking at placing people 5-10 years down the line.
Right.
And what you do with these events is you're not wanting huge numbers of people to attend. You're wanting self-selecting students to sort of come. So I'm very happy when I go to the university and only 5 students turn up, because it means I've only got 5 students I need to keep an eye on.
And you'll stay in touch with those students until the time's ready.
Yes, and that way you've built up a rapport. You know that they're engaged. You know that they're eager. If they drop off your radar, then perhaps they would sort of lose motivation at work as well. So, like I say, it's self-selecting, and you end up with a small selection of people that you can go to and go, hey, look, I've got a role. Are you interested?
Yeah, that's good. And what would you say to employers that think that company culture is just about having bar football or ping pong?
So there's some very interesting studies about how providing all of this stuff is to make up for the fact that they're not giving individual offices for people.
Oh, okay.
Table football and ping pong can actually be very, very distracting, especially in my line of work. And it's like, yes, it's lovely to be able to get together and sort of play a bit of table football, but I'd be more interested in what is it like when you've got a critical production bug that has to be fixed. Mm-hmm. What's the atmosphere like then?
And because it's like some companies, they'll put bar football in and expect everybody just to get on.
Yes.
Let's have a match. Okay, so you're not so for that then. It's different things for your organisation that brings people together. And that's the challenge in the work itself.
Yeah, so it's getting people who want to be there, who enjoy being there, who will naturally sort of coalesce and produce the good stuff that we want. Mm-hmm. And then forcing them to go off and play football or table football or go out for drinks and all that stuff. If they want to do that stuff, great.
Yes, could be the culture that they're trying to achieve. Yeah.
But if they want to go home and spend time with their family,
that's also great.
That's also fine.
Yeah. So with regards to Tech Marionette, would you say that it's quite a flat organisation? There's none of the hierarchy there?
On paper, it's a very, very vertical organisation.
Right.
Because we're only 3 people, and you've got the CEO, the CTO, and the developer. In reality, it is an entirely flat organisation. I don't manage the developer at all because I trust him. Mm-hmm. My management role sort of comes in if there's some prioritization that he doesn't want to make the call on, then the CEO and myself may go through and prioritize the work. But we trust him to get on with it and deliver. So management is limited. Also, the CEO trusts me to look after the tech side of things. I trust him to look after the sort of administration side of things. So there's just this trust that people will be doing their jobs and that we can rely on each other.
That will continue as you take more employees on?
Yes. I really don't want to become a full-time manager. That's not what I'm about. So if I can employ staff who I can just trust to get on with things and we have a light touch, then they will go off and do amazing things.
So do you believe that that can happen with many organisations if everybody there comes to work, they want to be there, the culture is right for them, so they fit well, and that they have a mission to work on?
Yes, and it's provably so. If you look at companies like Valve, Valve is a computer game company, and their employees have desks on wheels. And the idea being that you can go and form a team to work on anything.
Brilliant.
And people will come and work on your team if they think it's fun and they think it will benefit the company. If they think it's a waste of time, they won't come and work on your team, and you'll need to go find another team to work on. So you've got people who come up with ideas, they own the ideas.
Yeah. So could there be a little solo table just wheeling around because nobody wants them on their team? That sounds great. Okay, that's lovely. So, what will you guys be doing for Christmas?
So we're a very distributed company. The CEO is in France. Our developer is in London. I'm based in Cromer. We have a actual work meeting next week where we will likely go out for a meal for Christmas, but actual Christmas itself we will probably spend with our families.
Lovely. So how do you all collaborate then? Do you use Slack or something like that?
So we use Slack for normal sort of day-to-day communications. If something requires talking, we'll jump onto a Google Hangout. Email not used so much, but certain applications may fire out emails if things have happened.
Yeah.
And then we meet up once a month,
Right.
either in Cambridge or London.
Brilliant. Okay. So are there any final tips you can give to any employers out there that they're thinking, right, we need to really step up on our company culture for 2017?
So I would make sure that your stated culture matches what is actually happening in the office. Don't have this blind belief that our culture is X and we're very proud of it, and because we're proud of it, it's going to happen. Be aware of what the actual culture in the office is, and if it doesn't match your stated culture, work out why and work out how you can change it.
Lovely. Thank you, Dom. It's been great speaking with you.
No worries.
Thank you, and happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas to you too.